Hello, Torage the Warrior here, and this is Fury-Raider4, Baleroc the Gatekeeper. Now, this guy is going to be a little different than normal, and before we get to the fight here, we're just going to stop real quick. So the best way to explain this is with illustration, and for that we have Baleroc the Gatekeeper here. It is typically a 2-tank fight. I've heard of people 1-tanking it, but for this example we got 2 tanks, and they will do tank stuff. After that, we're going to have healers who are going to be roughly max range away from the tanks, though still able to heal them, but as far away from them as possible, and that is so we can have room for the DPS that will be sort of in between the boss and the healers. Now, you're going to have all your DPS in close range, regardless if they're melee or not. They got to be up close there. And that's because they've got to be far away from the healers. And that is because of the Shards of Torment. Shards of Torment are those little blue shard things that will come up periodically during the fight on a player. And they will channel Torment on a player near them. And if they channel Torment on you, it reduces all your healing done by 50%. So that's very bad for that to get on a healer. And that's why everyone in the DPS needs to be far away from the healers, so they don't accidentally get that. They just need to be out of the way. So the Shard of Torment will spawn on a random person, and that'll be shown. You'll see who they are with the big purple like beam things around them. And everyone else who's not in your order. Now beforehand, before you start the fight, you want to have your order set up for who's taking the Shard of Torment. So whoever it spawns on, whoever's not first, needs to run away from it very quickly. It will take a few seconds for it to start channeling on someone. So if it's on you and you're not the first person, run away. If you are the first person, cool, just stay right next to it. And everyone else needs to be away from it. After that, person number 2 needs to come, and they need to stand just on the other side of the person number 1. So they will be second closest person to the shard, but still further away than person number 1. And that is just to make the swap of the channel very easy. The shard always channels the nearest person to it, so if you're right next to each other, you're very close, but then person number 1 can just take a couple steps one direction, and you can take a couple steps the other direction, and then you've switched as quickly as possible. And you want to do the switch at around 8 stacks of the debuff, and that's the safest number to get at. It can go up to 10 and you'll still survive, but you can get away with 8, and then chances are you might end up having someone get more than that anyway, so it's good to leave that leeway room in there. You don't want to have it to be too few stacks, because then you'll burn through your rotation of players too quickly, and then people have the 40-second debuff on them still, which is what happens to you after you get Shards of Torment. You get the Tormented debuff. The Torment does shadow damage, and Tormented debuff increases shadow damage taken by 250%, so it'll pretty much kill you in a few seconds if you get Tormented again while you have the Tormented debuff. So you make that switch as quickly as possible. After that, person number 1 can go off and just DPS for a while, and person number 3 needs to get ready to do the same swap. Every 3 players, the shard will despawn, and it will spawn on another person. So whoever's right next needs to get to it, just like before. If you're not, you need to get far away from it. If you still have Tormented, make sure you're very far away from it. If you were person number 1, and if you're only using 5 DPS, if you're 3 healing it, then person number 1 is also going to be person number 3 for the next rotation. So make sure you're aware of that. So this person's going to spawn, the crystal's going to spawn on a different person each rotation if you're only using 5 DPS. We used 6, so it was the same 3. The same person was always picking up, and the same person was always waiting out to the end for that crystal. So person number 3 is going to channel the crystal until it despawns, and it shouldn't kill you as long as everyone has gotten at least 8 stacks from it. Now here we go fairly quickly into the fight. We have the Shaman over there. That's the purple little pillar thing I was talking about, and he has gotten the Shard of Torment. He then moves because he is not the first Torment target, and the Shadow Priest moves in because they are. Notice how everyone pretty much clears away except for the Hunter, who is the one after them. And they're a little far back because they're a Hunter, but everyone is clear out of the way so they can maintain their full DPS. Then after that we switch off to the Shaman, who just has to take a couple steps over. Now I'm taking the first Torment from the second shard, so as soon as it spawns on the Shaman here, who moves out of the way, I immediately move in to pick it up. Notice how our Warlock, who is after me in the rotation, immediately moves in to make sure he's the second closest person to the shard. Now, notice as soon as the Warlock has the 8 stacks, he portals out to a safe location. And a lot of other classes have quick little moves like that. As a Fury Warrior, you can actually Heroic Leap. And if you do it right, you can still land further enough away from the crystal, but close enough to the boss that you can get that extra damage in with Heroic Leap. Also note that Heroic Leap has been taken off of the global cooldown, so you can Heroic Leap without interrupting your rotation. And there's the spawn of crystal number 3, and notice everyone who's in that area that has a torment buff around them immediately moves out of the way. And that's really all this fight is about, is keeping track of where you are in the rotation and keeping track of where the crystal is while getting out as much damage as possible. And here we have the Heroic Leap trick I was talking about. Notice I'm still able to do damage to the boss with the leap, which hits fairly hard. Also notice that you really don't see any healers in here. That is because they are far back behind and way out of range, so that they have no chance of getting that torment on them. That's all you need to know to kill Baleroc as a Fury Warrior, and thanks for watching. Make sure you please like, favorite, and subscribe, and if you have any questions, send them to warrior.torage@gmail.com, or just message me here on YouTube.